Verme la moustache et la capuchon. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki takatiki. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Sito patanilo, mira takatiki puletika. Samile verme la moustache et la capuchon.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today is my recently duplicated, recently imitated, but will always be the original, not mock draft. Now, unlike other drafts, people try to mock guys for where they should go. I actually tell you where guys best fit, and that's all based on my SSN metric: scheme, skill, need. Now, again, sometimes what ends up happening is that, a lot of times when people talk about how players bust out or they aren't that good, most of the time it's due to the fact that they're either in the wrong scheme or they're just injury prone. Now, again, in certain situations, like in most situations when players quote unquote bust out, it's due to the fact that they don't fit the scheme that they're in. So with that being said, here's some house cleaning I have to do. One, each team will get a player. Now, I was supposed to do this based on the current draft lineup, but it started to come out as more mock draftish and not actually as a not mock draft. So with that being said, what I'm doing is I'm gonna the teams that have 2 picks in the first round, I'm gonna give them 2 players, but all the players are slotted for where they could possibly be in the draft based on who's gone off of the board. Now again, I'm slotting guys based on my SSN metric, which means that the scheme, their skill, and the need is there for that particular for that particular player. So it's about the best fit for the player and the best fit for the organization. So with that being said, let's get into the not mock draft. Starting out at number 1, the best fit for the Carolina Panthers and the best fit for the player is, the best player there will be Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. Now, the reason that is because if the only thing that has to be fixed with Anthony Richardson is his mechanics and his footwork, this would be the perfect situation for him to be in. I mean, when you're talking about, you have the recently retired Josh McCown as his quarterbacks coach. His offensive coordinator is Thomas Brown, who was with the Los Angeles Chargers when they won the Super Bowl. Then you're talking about, you have Jim Caldwell, I think he's like the special assistant or special offensive consultant or something like that. You add in Frank Wright as his head coach, who's also dealt with a guy who had in Jalen Hurts, who also had scrambling ability. He also dealt with Jacoby Brissett, who I forgot about, but he did deal with Jacoby Brissett, who also has that same skill set. And on top of that, you throw in the fact that Andy Dalton is there as well, and you get the perfect mixture of coaching and player and skill that all needs to be there to have a successful quarterback. Now, here's a plus here. He can either sit behind Andy Dalton for a year, or if you do fix his mechanics and his footwork in training camp and in the all-season workouts and everything like that, you're talking about you actually have gotten a guy that could be the best rookie quarterback coming into the season. So again, with all that being said, the best fit for the Carolina Panthers is Anthony Richardson. Number 2, and this is the Houston Texans, so they picked twice in the first round, so I'm going to give them 2 players. The first player I got down for him is Myles Murphy, the defensive end out of Clemson. All of the coaching talent is on the defensive side of the ball. And because all of the coaching talent is on the defensive side of the ball, I feel that a defensive player is needed here, and not only that, they will get the most out of the guy's ability. And again, Myles Murphy is somebody who does a lot of things great and a lot of things really good. And adding him to this Houston Texans defense, along with that defensive staff, would be the perfect fit for Houston. And I understand that they need a quarterback, but just based off of my SSM metric, Myles Murphy best fits this scheme. And not only that, you're talking about, again, all of the talent, all the coaching talent is on the defensive side. Other than the offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach, he's a really good guy on the offensive side, but all of their talent is on the defensive side. Coaching talent is on the defensive side. So with that, Myles Murphy is the first guy. The second guy that I have down here, because I just said something about the other guy on the offensive side, the talented coach on that side is the offensive line coach. So that the guy that would be there is Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle out of Georgia. His specialty is run blocking. And that is, the one thing about this this Houston Texans team last year was that they sat up there and they were reliant upon the running game, but they didn't have the best talent on the offensive line. Broderick Jones would maximize this talent. They would then be able to sit up there and actually be able to fight against some of the pass rush and things like that, and be more effective in the run game. Because again, we're not really certain what Kenyon Green is going to be, even though he's a guard. But again, Kenyon Green, his specialty was also run blocking. So again, I think that, again, when you think about Myles Murphy and you think about Broderick Jones, those are the two players that best fit the Houston Texans scheme. Next is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, this is one where, to me, it was no doubt about what they should be doing. And for me, the Arizona Cardinals, the best fit for the Arizona Cardinals is Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Illinois. Now, currently their two starters is Felton and Wilson, who pretty much Devin Witherspoon can beat both of them out. And for me, I understand that you need a pass rusher, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of pass rushers that is in this draft that you can get later that will probably be a more refined player or a better fit for the Arizona Cardinals in the second round or whatever. But again, this is one of these areas where you take the best player that's available for your scheme. I mean, they did this years ago with Patrick Peterson, where they took him and people questioned them taking him. But when all things happen, it was the best thing they could have done. And this right here is it again. Devin Witherspoon is the best cornerback in this particular draft. And with that being said, if you got a guy who can beat out what your current starters are, then you go with that guy. You don't go with a guy just because he feels a need. So for that, Devin Witherspoon is the best fit for the Arizona Cardinals. Number 4 is the best fit for the Indianapolis Colts is Bryce Young, the quarterback out of Alabama. This is, again, a great merger of coaching, player, and talent and need. Indianapolis needs a quarterback. Not only that, they have two guys on their staff. So you got Cam Turner, who was the quarterbacks coach with Kyler Murray for a very long time in Arizona. And he did a good job with the development of Kyler Murray, even though Kyler Murray fell off a little bit, but not by much. And he did a great job with that. So, again, with Kyler Murray's development, that's a proven thing. Then you also got Shane Steichen. Again, you're talking about Shane Steichen. He worked with Jalen Hurts. So the fact that you have Cam Turner, who worked with Kyler Murray, and you got Shane Steichen, who worked with Jalen Hurts, Bryce Young is the perfect fit here. The crazy thing about that is that Bryce Young throws the ball better than both Jalen Hurts and also Kyler Murray. But when you put in the fact of him being able to run and do other things, this is actually the perfect fit for Bryce Young. I mean, you talk about even his weapons when you think about Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce. Those are really good receivers for Bryce Young to be throwing to. So again, when you add in the coaching, you add in the player, you add in the need, you add in the skill players around him, when it comes down to it, Bryce Young, the best fit for the Indianapolis Colts is Bryce Young. Number 5. So again, here's another one where Seattle picks twice in the first round. So here are the two players. The first player I have on here is Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. The reason for that is that his big benefit that he has is that Damian Lewis is his defensive line coach. And Damian Lewis himself was a very good defensive lineman. Not only that, the skill and the ability that Jalen Carter comes with is so good that Damian Lewis will be able to basically have him be able to be the better part of himself more than anything else. Again, they need a defensive tackle in the middle of this defense, and this guy fits perfectly. Along with him being able to respect his defensive line coach and Damian Lewis. Not only that, Damian Lewis can also probably more than likely be his mentor as he's going along in his NFL career. So for that, with that being said, I got Jalen Carter is the first fit for the Seattle Seahawks. The second guy is Will Anderson. The reason for Will Anderson is because Seattle doesn't ask their ends to do a lot in their scheme. They do let them actually sit up there and basically rush the passer, and they try their best to make it up with their linebacker play. So that would actually be the best fit for Will Anderson, because he's not that strong when it comes to actually sealing the edge and sealing the ends like he should in a defensive scheme. But when it comes to him being able to be a guy that gets around the corner, hits the edge, and is able to really do some damage, this is where he best fits. And like I said again, because they don't ask their defensive ends to do a lot in regards to responsibilities, this would be the perfect fit for Will Anderson. Next is the Detroit Lions. Again, another team that has two players that I'm going to give. The first player is Darnell Washington, the tight end out of Georgia. The reason why I say that is that when you look at Detroit, all of their offensive skill positions is filled. Like, they don't really need they don't need a tight end to come in and basically be a huge factor in the offense. They need a tight end that's going to be a release valve at times and somebody who's basically formidable in the run game. That is Darnell Washington. He's the best blocker to me in this entire draft. Not only that, he himself gets the opportunity and the chance to deal with a coach when you think about his head coach and Dan Campbell, who was one of the best blocking tight ends and also a receiving threat when he needed to be when he was with the Giants. So again, Dan Campbell would be the perfect person, and he would also, and Darnell Washington will fit this offensive scheme very well, because again, he won't need to be a huge factor in this offense, because they already got all the skill players that they need when it comes to that. So for that, Darnell Washington is the first player that would be the perfect fit for Detroit. The second guy is Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback out of Mississippi State. Now, this is why I say Emmanuel Forbes. He has certain things that is at his disposal if he was to go to Detroit. I mean, for the fit in Detroit. You have Aaron Glenn as his defensive coordinator, who was one of the best cornerbacks in the league. As his cornerbacks coach or secondary coach, he has Dre Bly, who also was a really good quarterback in the NFL. And then on top of that, his running mate would be Jeff Okudah. So Emmanuel Forbes, and just so you know, all those guys had an attacking style when it came to going after the ball. he also has this attacking style as well. And that attacking style would be beneficial to him as he goes along in this process, because again, you're talking about a guy who actually goes after the ball. He will hit and everything like that. And I know some people are concerned about his size, but again, when you got a guy who's going after the football, and understand he could take it to the house because he is one of the faster cornerbacks in this draft. But again, when you talk about fitting a scheme, you talking about this is a perfect fit. And not only that, getting tutelage from some of the guys who were some of the best cornerbacks in the NFL at their time. This is a great fit for Emmanuel Forbes and the Detroit Lions, and also Darnell Washington. Next is the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the problem with the Raiders is that it's hard to really dictate or figure out what they should get. They've always had issues on offense and they've had issues on defense. But what they've always been missing for a very long time is that middle linebacker to really communicate and be able to help that defense really become a solid unit. And with that, I actually went with what I feel is probably one of the smartest linebackers in this draft, and that guy is Jack Campbell. Everything about him screams Raider. Like everything from his attacking style, his aggressive nature and everything like that, but his ability to communicate the defense very well is probably what the Raiders have been missing on defense for a very long time. Not only that, he's a Mike linebacker guy, and this is somebody that they really need. Now, will he need some development? Yes, but not a lot. But again, I just feel that that's what the Raiders have been missing for a long time. They're missing that true leader in the middle of that field, in the middle of that defense that is able to get everybody in place and playing like they're supposed to. So for me, Jack Campbell is the best fit for the Las Vegas Raiders. Next is the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm certain that some of y'all know where I'm going to go, but some of y'all may not. But the best fit for the Atlanta Falcons is Bijan Robinson. Now, I understand that, they want cornerbacks, they want edges, they want defensive tackles and things like that. But understand what's happening with this particular team. One, Arthur Smith runs a very run-heavy offense. And you need a running back that's able to do that very well. Now, don't get me wrong. Cordell Patterson isn't bad, but it's time to get him away from that running back duty and start utilizing him as the everything weapon, similar to Deebo Samuel and how Washington uses Curtis Samuel. You want a guy who can basically be a threat no matter what part of the field he's on. And you now get Cordell Patterson out of that. Not only that, you have a young quarterback coming into the system. What better way to help him out than to have the best running back running the ball for him? And again, because this offense is basically molded around this running attack, this is how you're going to get a lot of play action involved. This is how you're going to get a lot of blown coverages, because you're going to have a top level running back running the ball. And then when the defense starts to sink in, then you're talking about Desmond Ridder being able to throw over the top. Should it be to Kyle Pitts? And you finally will get Kyle Pitts in the game. So should it be to Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson, or even Drake London? So again, for me, like I said, the best fit for the Atlanta Falcons is Bijan Robinson. Next is the Chicago Bears. Now, with Chicago, they did a whole lot to help themselves in the offseason. I mean, they really did a whole lot. But for me, this one particular pick will help them out exponentially. And not only that, will make sure that Justin Fields has a very long career in Chicago. And that guy that's the best fit for the Chicago Bears is DeJuan Jones, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. You give Justin Fields a level of comfort by drafting his former offensive tackle that, by the way, did not give up a sack in 3 years. So you're talking about you were able to slot him into that right side and feel comfortable with that. Not only that, on the coaching staff is Chris Morgan as the offensive line coach. Chris Morgan was the assistant offensive line coach when he was in Washington during the developmental years of not only Trent Williams but also Morgan Moses, who both became some of the most solid bookends in Washington during that time period. And because of Chris Morgan's assistance with the development of not only Trent Williams but also Morgan Moses, DeJuan Jones will be the perfect fit. Not only that, you give Justin Fields the ability to feel comfortable when it comes to his right side, not feeling like he's going to be hurt with anybody coming off his right side. So for that, DeJuan Jones is the best fit for the Chicago Bears. Next is the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, they get 2 picks. The first guy in this thing is Brian Branch. Brian Branch basically fills the need of 2 missing players. So you're talking about he can fill the need of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and he can also fill in where Mike Epps was playing. So again, you're talking about a guy who has the positional flex that you really like, but that he also fills pretty much 2 needs if you need him to. So again, Brian Branch actually is the perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. The other guy that I got down for the Philadelphia Eagles is Nolan Smith, the defensive end out of Georgia. Again, he's another guy that what Philadelphia asked their ends to do is not a lot. I mean, they can basically use him the same way they use Haason Reddick, where you can utilize his speed to get around the edge and actually go at the quarterback. Again, Philly likes this. Philly likes these type of guys that can get around the edge and get to the quarterback. They don't ask them to do a lot in regards to the run game. Again, see Haason Reddick for that. They didn't ask Haason Reddick to do a whole lot. So now, again, you're talking about you can have another guy who can do the exact same thing. Now, understand you got Josh Sweat and I think Derek Barnett came back, but still, why not have a young developing guy who's basically going to be doing the exact same thing? So again, Nolan Smith and Brian Branch are both the best fits for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next is the Tennessee Titans. This particular guy I put here because I think he would be the perfect complement to the receiver he'll be playing beside, and because this entire offense is wrapped around Derrick Henry, it would be the best fit. So to play the opposite of Treylon Burks, I do feel that Jalin Hyatt is that guy. Now, again, you can use him in this scheme to be exactly what he is, and that's a deep threat. You don't have to be concerned about him not having a limited route tree or anything of that such nature, because you would benefit the greatest in play action with this guy. Because again, you're not focused on the fact of him being a possession receiver because you got that in Treylon Burks. You don't have to worry about him having a limited route responsibility because you know that all he's going to do is run straight and run fast. And you're talking about that would be the perfect complement while he's still learning the process of route trees and things like that. Again, it could be a situation where he picks it up very quickly, but a deep threat on this team, a genuine deep threat on this team, you're talking about a team that can cause some major damage. And again, because the offense is already wrapped around Derrick Henry, at least you don't have to worry about that. So again, the perfect fit for the Tennessee Titans is in fact Jalin Hyatt, the wide receiver out of Tennessee. And at least he doesn't have to go far if he's drafted to him. Next is the New York Jets. Now, the New York Jets, the Aaron Rodgers thing is still going on. You got a lot of things happening there. But this particular pick is due to the fact that we're not certain what's going to happen with Mekhi Becton. And with that being said, Paris Johnson, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, not only that, I think he's the perfect fit Not only that, his offensive line coach is Keith Carter. And Keith Carter for a long time was the offensive line coach in Tennessee. Not only that, he has experience with a former Ohio State tackle with Pierre, who plays for Tennessee. So I just feel that with the makeup of what's happening with Mekhi Becton possibly not being able to return, and you talk about Keith Carter, who managed the Tennessee Titans offensive line, Paris Johnson would develop well with the New York Jets, and because of that, he is the perfect fit. Next is the New England Patriots. Now, this pick that I chose for them is a lot of it is based in the fact that of the division that they're playing in. That AFC East is a very dangerous grouping. Is a very dangerous division, and the reason that is because you're talking about they have some of the best dual wide receiver tandems, and they got some of the best wide receiver duos in all of the NFL. When you think about even when you think about Buffalo, I mean, to some extent, yeah, they got Stephon Diggs, and then you're talking about that's the Buffalo Bills. Then you look at the Miami Dolphins with Waddle and Hill, and then all of a sudden you look at the Jets with Garrett Wilson. So you do and Corey Davis, you do have a huge problem in this AFC East, and for that they need a cornerback. Not only do they need a cornerback, they need a cornerback that can play man, which is what they normally like to run and what they normally like their cornerbacks to do. So for that, the best fit for the New England Patriots is Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback out of Penn State. Again, it's all about the division for this guy, and it's all about the scheme fit. Bill Belichick loves his guys to be on an island by themselves a lot of times, and again, he is a solid man cover corner. He doesn't play zone that well, and sometimes he can get handsy, but again, those type of cornerbacks is what Bill Belichick likes. So for that being said, the best fit for the New England Patriots is Joey Porter Jr. Next is the Green Bay Packers. Again, them on the verge of trading away Aaron Rodgers. I'm assuming that they might get a first round pick from the New York Jets, depending on how this goes. But for right now, where they are right now, what they need to do is put more weaponry around Jordan Love to make sure that you have. To make sure that Jordan Love has the most success possible. And for that, what I chose for them is a wide receiver. And that wide receiver is Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC. He fits perfectly in this offense because you already got the deep threat in Christian Watson. And you just lost Allen Lazard. What you can have here is a guy who can step in and actually be a real genuine threat when it comes to all of the routes that he has to run and some of the playmaking you can have to do, so you don't have to solely depend on Christian Watson to make so many plays. And again, this gives Jordan Love another weapon to deal with. So with that, I think Jordan Addison is the best fit for the Green Bay Packers, all because at the end of the day, it gives Jordan Love another weapon. Next is the Washington Commanders, and I know a lot of the people from Washington want to hear this one. But the best fit, this is scheme-wise, the best fit for Washington is Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the defensive end edge guy out of Kansas State. Now, again, we're talking about what's going to happen. We're not certain what's going to happen with these edge guys in the future. And you're talking about a guy who has what? Position flex. He does a really good job when it comes to being able to play defensive end in a 5-man front and actually play the end on a 4-man front. So again, I think that this guy fits us very well. Not only that, he'll be able to spell a lot of guys when it comes to his rotation within the system. He'll be able to spell, should it be Chase Young, Montez Sweat. He can also spell Jonathan Allen at times when they go to the 5-man front. He can also give a breather to Deron Payne if need be in a 5-man front. So again, this guy Felix and Duke Uzama is the perfect fit for the Washington Commanders. Next is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers need a lot. One thing that their bigger problem was the offensive line. I know they need an edge player and stuff like that, but I would rather them focus on that offensive line to build it better to help Kenny Pitt. Not only that, with Najee Harris, and also being able to, get the ball out more. And for that, I got them taking Anton Harrison, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. The reason I selected him is because of the fact that he's very good in run blocking, which is what they currently need, but he's going to also get better in pass blocking. He's not bad in pass blocking. It's just that he will get better in pass blocking because at the end of the day, the Pittsburgh Steelers do need to find a way to build this line. And again, what better way to do it than to start off with a guy who's fantastic in run blocking so that Najee Harris can feel very comfortable running behind this guy. And again, he will be able to seal the edge, especially if the play looks like a run play. And for that, Anton Harrison is the best fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the crazy thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that they're going to need a quarterback. And not only that, they're going to need a quarterback who's used to having multiple weapons around him when it comes to him playing. And that guy, the best fit for the Tampa Bay Bucks, is C.J. Stroud, the quarterback out of Ohio State. Again, you're talking about a guy who can come in and play now. You won't have to worry about his accuracy. You won't have to worry about his deep play. Not only that, the offense that they're like, you got to understand, their offensive coordinator is Dave Canales. I think that's how you say his name. But he was the guy who helped develop Geno Smith last year. He was the guy who was there for Geno Smith and was able to really groom Geno Smith into playing very well last year. So again, this is one of these guys that, you talk about perfect fit. This fits perfectly for C.J. Stroud, and it's a perfect fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they need the quarterback. But again, in the sense of a guy fitting a scheme and at the same time having somebody there who will be able to help him really integrate himself into the offense, the best fit for C.J. Stroud is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next is the Los Angeles Chargers. They're a team that is going to have to really find more weaponry and actually do more stuff. And for me, the best fit for them, I got Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. He pretty much does a lot of what I think it's Gerald Everett does, where the difference is that he's a better receiver than Gerald Everett. So because of that, it's one of those things where Mike Mayer actually makes sense for the Chargers because again, he can come in, he's a fairly decent blocker, and on top of that, he's very deceptive in the receiving game, and he's actually faster than Gerald Everett when it comes to the receiving game. So he can actually get himself open. He's very good with finding holes in the defense and all that. And he's also very solid when it comes to not being able to easily be taken down. So again, the best fit for the Los Angeles Chargers is in fact Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. Next is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, I did this strictly based on the coach, the guy who's going to be coaching this guy. So they need a cornerback. So the cornerback that I selected for them is Kenley Ringo, the cornerback out of Georgia. This is based purely on Chris Hewitt, the secondary coach, the defensive backs coach for the Baltimore Ravens. He's been with the Ravens for a very long time, and he's developed some of the best corners when it's come to the Baltimore Ravens. And I feel that if he got Kenley Ringo in, his progression in coaching and development of corners is going to keep going. And I just feel that what he would do with Kenley Ringo, and he would take some of what Kenley Ringo is not good at and make him better at it. And I do feel that when it comes down to it, this would be the perfect fit for the Baltimore Ravens. So the perfect fit for the Ravens would be Kenley Ringo, the cornerback out of Georgia. Next is the Minnesota Vikings, and one of their big issues has been pass protection for that line, and a lot of that comes through their center. Garrett Bradbury hasn't been like the best center since he's been drafted. And even last year, I said something about them replacing him last year. This year, they have to do it. They have to replace him because he's not going to be the guy that they want him to be. So with that being said, they have to take what I feel is one of the best centers in the draft. And that guy to me is Luke Whippler, the center out of Ohio State. I think that this guy would make that offense better. Again, he's used to playing in an up-tempo offense that utilizes the pass and the run. And because this offense, especially in particular when it comes to Kevin O'Connell and how he runs it, this offense would fit perfectly for Luke Whippler, and Luke Whippler would fit perfectly for that. He's not a guy that gives up a lot of sacks. He's a very intelligent center. He calls out all types of blocking, and if he sees blitzes and all that, he calls it out very well. And he's probably way better pass protector than Garrett Bradbury is. And like I said, again, I just feel that when it comes down to it, the only way that Minnesota's going to have any level of success is by changing out Garrett Bradbury and going ahead and drafting Luke Whippler, the center out of Ohio State. Next is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they need offensive line help as well. Not a lot, but they need one spot that they have to do. And for that, the guy that I chose for him is Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. And there's several things that works here for this guy. One is Ben Barch. Ben Barch has been there, used to be their utility offensive lineman. He now gets to go back to being that. The other thing that is a benefit to Peter Skoronski is the mentorship he would get from a guy who was in a similar situation to him in Brandon Sheriff. Brandon Sheriff also moved from tackle to guard. So with Peter Skoronski, he would get the benefit of the mentorship from a Brandon Sheriff who would be able to explain to him why the change happened. Not only that, to see someone go from tackle in college, move to guard in the NFL, and become an all-pro at that position. So Brandon Sheriff's mentorship would be valuable for Peter Skoronski. So for that, Jacksonville Jaguars, the perfect fit for them is Peter Skoronski, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern. Next is the New York Giants. To me, again, this goes back to coaching and history of development and what a guy has been able to do. So for that, the New York Giants, the guy that I have as the perfect fit for them is Cam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Jerome Henderson has done a fantastic job when you think about how he's developed so many defensive backs and what he's done with those defensive backs when he's developed them. He's done a fantastic job. Not only that, Cam Smith can beat out the guy that they currently got slotted in as their starting right cornerback, and that guy is Bobby McCain. So again, Cam Smith can actually beat out Bobby McCain and also get the development from Jerome Henderson. And I'm telling you, this would be a great fit for him, especially when you think about the fact that, again, same with like the AFC East, the NFC East has a wide receiver problem too. You know what I'm saying? So the Giants are going to have to find a way to combat that. And a part of being able to combat that is being able to draft guys that's going to help with that. Because again, when you talk about the Commanders and their trio, then you talk about the Dallas Cowboys who just got Brandon Cooks, and you match that up with Michael Gallup and also CeeDee Lamb. Then you add in Philadelphia and their trio of A.J. Brown, Dante Smith, and Quez Watkins. it's a very dangerous group to deal with. So drafting cornerbacks, and not only that, drafting a really solid cornerback would help you a lot. So for that, Cam Smith is the best fit for the New York Giants. Next, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is all in on starting to get away from running backs being a big thing of their offense. And when they do want running backs, they want a Tony Pollard type of guy. So with that being said, they're going to need a tight end that's going to be a offensive threat in their system. And with that being said, the guy that best fits them is Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. This again, he replaces Dalton Schultz like it's nothing, and he's a bigger and more dangerous receiving threat than Dalton Schultz was. He doesn't block that well, but I mean, eventually that'll be something he probably works on. But again, when you talk about giving Dak another weapon to throw to, and we all know Dak loves to throw, so you give him another weapon to throw to, and not anybody but one of the top tight ends in the draft, he will be successful. And for that, Dalton Kincaid is the best fit for the Dallas Cowboys. Next, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills have a very good receiver in Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis isn't bad at all, but they do need another threat at wide receiver so that Stephon Diggs doesn't get so much attention. And for that, the guy I chose for them is Josh Downs, the wide receiver out of North Carolina. The reason I chose Josh Downs versus anybody else is because Josh Downs is a guy that actually makes people miss tackles and can actually make people miss on a lot of stuff. Like he does a very good job in route running. And not only that, he doesn't break tackles that well, but he can get himself open. He does a great job getting himself open and trying his best to get the ball down the field. And again, with some type of tutelage he will be getting from Stephon Diggs, this would be the perfect fit for Buffalo. Not only that, it helps Josh Allen be able to not have to constantly stare down Stephon Diggs or feeling like he can only trust Stephon Diggs. So for that, Josh Downs is in fact the best fit for the Buffalo Bills. Next, the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, Cincinnati, they need to replace their safeties that they lost. Von Bell and Jesse Bates were some of the best safeties there were, and Cincinnati lost both of them to free agency. And you got to start getting that back. And for that, the best fit for Cincinnati is Jordan Battle, the safety out of Alabama. He can plug and play immediately. He can actually replace Von Bell. Now, I understand that they do have a couple guys that are there, but you're talking about replacing Von Bell's production, and that is something you have to do. And with that, like I said, Jordan Battle fits that very perfectly. Like, he is a strong safety that can make an impact. He is a strong safety that likes to tackle. Sometimes he takes odd angles, but that's something that can be fixed. And trust me, he would replace Von Bell immediately. So for that, for the Cincinnati Bengals, the best fit is Jordan Battle. Next, the New Orleans Saints. They need interior defensive line work because again, they will need to push the pocket and find a way to get to collapse the pocket. And for that, the best fit for them is Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle out of Wisconsin. One thing about New Orleans is that they like their 3 technique guys. And for that, when it comes down to it, that 3 technique guy, well, Keanu Benton is a guy that plays that 3 technique, and he does it very well. And like I said, again, he's not the fastest guy, but he does get in on a lot of plays. And trust me, he will be a guy that will be able to collapse the pocket as he's trying to make a play. And again, they need somebody who's there to be able to collapse the pocket from within while the edges are coming from the side. So again, the perfect fit for the New Orleans Saints is Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle out of Wisconsin. Next is the Kansas City Chiefs. They need a wide receiver. they need a possession wide receiver, and they need a really good possession wide receiver. And for that, I got Jackson Smith and Jigba as the guy. Again, why not give Patrick Mahomes another weapon? And not any weapon, a weapon that he will be able to utilize immediately and all the time. Not only that, a guy who's known to be able to come back when he sees his quarterback is in trouble and make a play when his quarterback is in trouble. Again, that was some of the stuff that, I mean, you can have all the wide receivers that run fast, straight, and run deep and things like that. But when you got a guy that can also be a safety valve, just like Travis Kelce is, you're talking about a guy that can really help out a lot. And Jackson Smith and Jigba is that guy. And I do feel that he would, in fact, be the perfect fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, here the LA Rams. The Rams pick early in the second round. So because of that, I can't give them a first round talent, but I can give them a second round talent that would help them a lot. So for the new Los Angeles Rams, Los Angeles Rams. For the Los Angeles Rams, the perfect fit for them would be Will McDonald IV, the edge defensive end guy from Iowa State. Now, I'm going to say, I need to say this so I can, talk about this a little bit. The fact that Will McDonald is so far down in people's ranking of where he's going to go is kind of crazy to me, because he's actually a better pass rusher than both Nolan Smith and Will Anderson. And for me, the fact that he's so far down everybody's list is absolutely shocking to me. But when it comes to this Los Angeles Rams defense, he would be a great fit for them. I mean, you're talking about a guy who can get around the edge. Not only that, he also plays the run very well, and he's sideline to sideline, so he can actually take over that outside, that weak side linebacker position and play it very well. But again, he's also a guy that has very good pass rushing ability. And to this point, I'm still surprised that he was not higher than a lot of guys. And again, it's funny that most people are basing a lot of stuff on potential when this guy has shown that he can play at the next level. So I'm absolutely floored that Will McDonald IV is so far down and that people are projecting him to the second round. People don't understand that whatever team gets this guy, they're getting themselves a stud. And for that, like I said, Will McDonald IV would be the best fit for the LA Rams. Like I said, their scheme, they like their ends to basically crash down, make plays, rush the passer, and seal off the edge. He does this stuff very well. Next is the Miami Dolphins. They pick in the mid-second round. So for that, the guy that I got for them is Brenton Strange, the tight end out of Penn State. The reason why I chose him is because they're another team that has all their specialist positions are filled with A1 players. So they don't need a tight end to come in and need the ball. They need a guy who can come in and basically help with blocking, to basically help with keeping Tua upright and not getting more concussions. And for that, Brenton Strange is a guy who does a great job in the blocking game. Again, he's another one of these tight ends that can block really well, and he's also very good in the run blocking game as well. So with that, you want a guy who has the ability to block and he can protect. Now, he can run out on routes and he can make plays and things like that, but for him, it's not a necessity. So, and because you got so many skilled players at other positions, you don't need your tight end to be somebody who's desperate or needy for the ball. When you have to give him the ball because there's nobody else to throw to, you can do it. But other than that, he doesn't need to be a guy who needs to be a major factor in the offense. And for that would be the best fit for the Miami Dolphins. Next is the Denver Broncos. They select early in the third round. and they need offensive line help. And for that, I got Cody Mauch, the offensive tackle, who will be an offensive guard when he gets to the next level from North Dakota State. Zach Strief, who's a former offensive line guy, who used to play in the league as well. He would do great with developing this guy. This will give him the opportunity to really show that he can develop guys, and he can associate his former playing career to a guy that's making the transition from tackle to guard. And for that, I do feel that Cody Mauch would best fit the Denver Broncos because, again, he's a great run blocker. He's an okay pass blocker, which is something that he'll probably more than likely get better at moving to guard versus having to deal with it at tackle. And like I said, he does really well in the run blocking game. So for that, Cody Mauch would be the best fit for the Denver Broncos. Next is the Cleveland Browns. They pick in the mid-third round. So the guy I got for them is Spencer Anderson, the offensive guard out of Maryland. The reason why I selected this guy is because the Browns actually don't have a lot of holes in their defense or offense, especially when you talk about their backups. So they can actually draft a developmental guy, and more than likely they would need somebody to develop for that offensive line. And Spencer Anderson, who's an offensive tackle when he was at Maryland, but is going to be making the move to offensive guard, it would be good for them to develop a guy who can be their utility lineman, who will probably be able to play the left side and the right side at both tackle and guard. So for that, for the Browns, I gave them a developmental lineman because, again, they don't have a lot of holes or a lot of needs. So for that, Spencer Anderson would be the guy, the offensive guard or offensive lineman out of Maryland. Last but not least is the San Francisco 49ers, and they pick late in the third round. They need a linebacker to back up Dre Greenlaw. They don't have nobody behind him. So for that, I chose a guy that I feel would be a perfect fit in backing Dre Greenlaw up. And that guy is Isaiah Lamb, the linebacker out of Florida A&M. He basically does the exact same thing that Dre Greenlaw does, all of it. He's sideline to sideline. He's able to play well on the. He's able to seal the edge. He's able to run after. He's able to run and make tackles and everything like that. He is a guy that can actually back him up, and if Dre Greenlaw was to ever go out, he'll be able to step in and play immediately. So, and now again, this is one of these guys where, because they have a lot of players that is sealed up throughout their whole defense and offense, you're talking about a guy who can come in and develop behind Greenlaw and probably end up taking over for him in his second year. So again, Isaiah Lamb, the linebacker out of Florida A&M, and people, that is the end of my not mock draft. I want y'all to tell me what y'all think. Do y'all feel that there are guys that are better fits for your team than what I selected? But again, all this is based on my SSN metric. And trust and believe, my SSN metric, it does work well when it comes to players actually maximizing themselves, when it comes to the coaches that's going to be there to help them out and all that. Like I said, I'll give an example. Houston, the reason I didn't pick a quarterback for Houston, because you're talking about Bobby Slowick is in his first year as offensive coordinator. Their quarterbacks coach is Gerard Johnson, who's in his first year as a quarterbacks coach. Then you're talking about they have Bill Lazor as a senior offensive guy. Bill Lazor was in Washington. He didn't help with developing Jason Campbell that well. And when he went to Seattle, Matt Hasselbeck was already there. And Matt Hasselbeck had been there for a while. And then you also got Shane Day, who just was there with the Chargers where Justin Herbert had his worst season there is. So again, y'all tell me what y'all think. How many guys do you feel, what guys do you feel would be better slotted for some of these teams? Other than that, this has been your man, John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.